Hey, True Believers, England Teen here with another episode of Why Marvel Comics Suck. Now, okay, that's a bit of a clickbait title. We're going to be talking about why comic books today are in the toilet compared to when we were young. With me to talk about this is Eric Beck, Issue Breen. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. Trying to remember when we were young.
When was that? I mean, that was a long time. I remember there were shoulder pads. I remember there. Yeah,
a lot of presidents ago.
Yes, just a couple. A lot of day glow. I remember there was day glow for my youth. The jitterbug was a thing. No, wait, that was Wham. Anyway, yeah, a long time ago, we actually had it good. What I am saying is my childhood was better than yours, and Breen's might have actually been a little bit better than mine. It just seems that things have gone by the wayside, and which I'm amazed at, Breen, because the people writing comics today, and especially in their 20s and such, were raised by people our age. You know, they're our sons, our daughters, who were raised by parents who didn't let go of the pop culture, who didn't let go. You would think there'd be more of an appreciation, but it doesn't seem to be like that. It seems like when we were younger, even in our young adult years, you had writers like John Byrne or Chris Claremont who would understand that these are not their characters; they're just the stewards. And as John Byrne, I think actually it was Mark Waid or John Byrne who said, "First job is to do no harm."
Oh, that was Waid.
Yeah, and now I don't even think he believes it anymore. And I did that. That was the first video in this segment, was called "Just Fictional Characters," because that's how they seem to believe now. And we talk about other things in part 2 and part 3, but here I want to talk about writing for the trade. And I do got to say I screwed up because I was going to have a visual aid. Maybe if you have it in your magical box. In my opinion, writing for the trades really began not with Brian Michael Bendis. I'm going to let him off the hook, but with Grant Morrison in the Justice League. Because that was when every story seemed to be 3-4 issues, and they put them out in the trades. Now, occasionally they would do a Tomorrow Woman where it was just a couple of issues, but this is how it's getting started. And I think that even Brian Michael Bendis and the Ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimates, and all that kind of stuff, the Ultimate Marvel Universe even, was a product of the success of the Grant Morrison run on Justice League. What do you think?
I think I could go along with that because, you know, at some point they all became 6-issue arcs.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, which led to a lot of decompressed storytelling and a lot of filler issues. And, you know, which, you know, may not be such a, you know, a bad thing for people that wait for them, but the people that buy the monthly, you know, single issues, you couldn't help it there being some months where you go, man, I felt like I just read Cotton Candy.
Yeah, well, and that is what happened when you would have Brian Michael Bendis writing. I've gone back and I read like the Ultimate 6, and these are stories that I got to admit, when they were first coming out, I'm entranced. I'm big into the Ultimate Universe, so I liked it. But when I went back to read it, I realized that nothing happens for issues. I mean, it's just and something I've noticed, and this is kind of bowled over into modern comics, but you would have an entire issue where it was just talking heads, and they would just, one issue would repeat what the last issue said. There was no movement of information. Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing. Sure, have a talking issue. Have a baseball issue if you're the X-Men, basically. It would be that. But you have to have, if you're not having the plot move forward, you have to have the information move forward. We need new information from the last issue. Otherwise, it's stagnant. It's a standstill. And when I went back and read the Ultimate 6, I realized there were 3 issues to the story. The other issues were at a standstill. They were just, okay, here's all the information you need to know in issue 1. Issue 2 repeated the information from issue 1. Issue 3 forwarded the story, but issue 4 repeated issue number 3. Mm-hmm. Issue 5 was all set up. Maybe you get some new information. Issue 6 completed the thing. And it was like, okay, that's what, 3.5 maybe issues of new information, and we saw it go like that even more so as time drew on.
Well, you brought it up, a couple times recently. Even a book written by a very good writer by today's standards, really by any standards, Brian Edward Hill, in the Batman: The Outsiders, where they spent how many issues talking about fighting Ra's al Ghul?
Yeah, it was like, yes, we're going to go get it. Okay, we're going to go fight him. Tomorrow, I guarantee you we're fighting him. And then, okay, let's get to fighting him. Yeah, it was just like every issue was a different angle that they could go on as far as how they're going to go up against Ra's al Ghul. It's like, I'm glad you're going to. Let's get to it. This was a 3, maybe 4 issue story that now, because of trades, has to be stretched into 6 issues.
And I think that, eventually hurts the comic shops, because if you know that the books that are coming out on any particular day are in the middle of a storyline, you go, oh, do I really need to go get that, or can I just wait for the trades?
Yeah.
It definitely hurts single issue sales, I think. And I said it's the single issue sales that bring people into the shops every week, and that's definitely suffered over the years, especially since I remember last year I think we even built a couple of videos around Detective 10,008 because it was a one-off. And it was like a 4-leaf unicorn.
I know,
in
right?
Today's comics.
Nowadays, a one-off would be a special $9 issue of of collected stories. You can't even get a one-shot in a one-shot anymore. They've got to just give you multiple stories. It's ridiculous. And look, it can be done well, but it's getting worse. And I'm going to talk about what I think is a written for the trade done well. But it's gotten worse because I don't think a lot of the writers today, not all, I think there are some good writers out there. You and I have sung the praises of Venditti's Hawkman many, many times. You yourself are a huge fan of Gabby Rivera's America, and she's a freaking brilliant writer.
Everyone should be.
I know, right? No, point being is there are people who can write these 6-issue arcs, but they fill them. They make sure it's a real 6-issue arc. But there's also some out there, and this is when it's really bad, is when you've got a 2-issue story that is now spread out to 6 issues, because the panels would read like you show him jumping out the window, I can't, and then he's falling, believe, and then you see him hit the ground, I'm falling, and it's like, okay, that's one freaking little word panel at the top. All right, this whole thing could have done one page. Like, oh my goodness gracious, it's just, they seem, with the splash pages, with the one word every panel thing, they're stretching this story out so much. It's obvious. It's obviously that's what they're doing. And I got to tell you, I've fallen victim to this, because sometimes I'll get a book and I'll look at, oh my gosh, this is very wordy. No, this is exactly what we were reading in the 80s. It's just now I'm not used to it because modern day comics seem to think dialogue is a thing of the past.
Okay, yeah. So if you can't remember what you just read, the next day, you've read filler material, and yes, in between issues that supposedly matter. And I said it's I hate to sound like that guy that keeps talking about, well, in my day. But you go back and read books from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and every issue, mattered to some degree. You can't say that about the books coming out now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to talk about this particular subject. For the most part, I think it's done very poorly these days. I think we're getting mostly filler. You don't need all of the issues to complete a story. And they're doing that for the trades. And you're right. I think some people would say, why bother getting the singles when you can wait for it to come on trade paperback, buy it, and buy it then and get it all in one story. Now, the one person I think did it right was Robert Kirkman for Walking Dead. because not only was he was doing single trades, and then he was doing hardcover annual compendiums, and then he was doing those big fat 40 issue compendiums. And he would manage to keep all stories so that each one of them ended at a cliffhanger. And I never felt I was reading filler material. But then again, The Walking Dead was all about the people. It was so occasionally you would have the death and such like that, but mostly it really did depend on the dialogue. It depended on the characterization. So granted, I did think a couple of stories ran on long, though.
Didn't he start doing that after the TV show started? So he had the luxury of a wildly successful television show to to reach a larger audience potentially that most comic book writers don't have. And one of the things, if you're not reaching people, like I said, if they say a jumping on point, for example, like I said, if you jump in the middle, if you try a book in the middle of a storyline the first one you pick up is just, talking head filler material that really doesn't advance anything, that's a problem. If you decide to wait for the trades, that can give you 6 months to talk yourself out of continuing to read that book.
Yeah.
So those are some problems that, come with writing for the trade. That, I said, they're not all going to be, things that everybody has to get. So, I mean, it seems like, again, when trade paperbacks first started, they were reserved for special stories and stories that were worthy of them, not every 6 issues of every book published.
I know. And remember, we would even get the special lead in, like, hey, I am Stan Lee, and I've got to tell you, this is the most awesome story you're ever going to read. There was always some sort of foreword or something that would be from, maybe even it was another writer or an actor or something like that. They would write in, this is what this story means to me, or it was one of the authors or the artist of the comic that you were about to read. They really made the trade paperback something. The whole reason this thing was collected was because this story is that worthy of being collected. Nowadays, it's because it was out last month. Issue 6 arrived, or issue 12, or issue 18. Yeah.
Man of Steel, Legends, things like that. 30 plus years later, I still read those every couple of years. I don't really have many trade paperbacks. I mean, I've got a lot of collections. Yeah. But as far as just the 6 issue, boom, I don't have many of them because I said that, they really don't have that much meaning. I said, as a self-contained entity. Now, if you have, like, say, the JSA trades, for example, when they'll publish 10, 12 issues, you can really get a good flow going. And then again, Jeff Johns is a guy that can write for the trades because he will put something. Yeah,
he's really good at it as well. In all honesty, I'm looking over at my trade paperback shelf is straight ahead from me, and I'm seeing, as far as the collections, I do have Aquaman up to issue number 5, but would you expect anything less? I do have the first couple of Nightwings, Bird of Prey, from the Denny O'Neil before Gail Simone took him?
Chuck Dixon.
Yeah, Chuck Dixon. And then I've got the Batman. I've got Nightfall. I've got No Man's Land. So yeah, I do have those. And then I do have the Justice League Grant Morrison run. I call it the Grant Morrison run, even though in the later pages it was like it did have like John Byrne and all them do stories as well. But I've got I got the complete Jeff Johns JSA. You know what? I'm thinking of 2 different videos here that we need to do. What's on our shelves, and the next what's killing Marvel Comics, or why Marvel Comics suck, has to be. Every jump on point is a jump off point. Go on ahead. Sorry.
No, it's I was interrupting you, so my apologies. What we're talking about right now, those aren't trades to me. Those are collections. I think the thing that's killing comics, as far as I'm concerned, are those 6-issue self-contained little stories that that almost every book seems to have, because because the collections are usually put out a couple years after the fact, if not even a little longer, because you usually like when the JSA collection started coming out, they were pretty far into the run, if I'm not mistaken. Like Birds of Prey, that series has ended, and they've started to re-release them, but they were pretty far into that. I'm talking like if a book has been out for 12 issues, I don't know that having one trade already out and a second one on the way is doing the book or the industry any favors.
Yeah, and some of them come out the month after the 6th issue.
Right.
I've noticed that now. It's like as soon as that 6th, okay, we sold that 6th issue, here's the trade paperback. So you don't even have to wait. You're right. You don't have to wait for any time at all. It's like right then and right there. But
it's the comic equivalent of streaming.
Yeah, and there you go. And the thing is once again, it's not as good of storytelling. You don't get a lot of who these characters are. Granted, you can look at our 1980s comics, especially by, say, Marv Wolfman, or look at Crisis on Infinite Earths. Compare Crisis on Infinite Earths with, say, War of Realms or even Empire, and check the word count. I'll guarantee you that one issue of Crisis on Infinite Earths is probably 2 issues worth of Empire. But you got thoughts from 100 characters. You got motivations for half of them, and we're talking about a story that used every character that was ever in a DC comic up to that point. Every main character, obviously, but or side character.
Written by someone. Written by someone who could write different characters and not just themselves in interchangeable, dialogue balloons.
Yeah, that's definitely something to look at on in a broader sense as well. I think that would also make for a good, decent video on its own. But as far as this concerned, I really do like and would like to see more one-shot comics. Not like this Wonder Woman 84 that we got, which, by the way, was so bad. I wish I got the bad cover. I didn't. Now I kick myself in the butt. Why did I get the good cover for this crap comic? But anyway, I digress and digest. It was just so bad, and it's a bad idea. I think these stories, there are some stories out there that could be so much better tightened up. And like I said, the Batman and the Outsider, that was a great 3-issue story. It was a good 6-issue story. Go on ahead. What were you going to say? You could close it out.
We actually got 2 good one-offs this week. Wonder Woman 84 was not one of them, but the 2 annuals that came out, the Justice League and the Batman Superman. It's unfortunate that, I don't know that they were designed to really be anything more than just, page fillers, but they were self-contained stories, and both of them were a lot of fun.
All right, good to know. Are we going to be seeing those on We've Got Issues?
I may bring them up.
Maybe. All righty. So there you go. Look, that's our thoughts on writing for the trades. But you know what? Actually, before we go, can I mention one thing that I started noticing? More so than writing for the trades, I have noticed that they're writing for the movies. I don't think they're writing for trades anymore. I think it's all about the movies now. I thought I was done with this topic, but then I remembered, wait a second. I've been reading comics, and it seems like, especially in the independent field, except for in this case, I just got done reading Plunge for DC, the Joe Hill comics. And it was abso-freaking-lutely a movie script. I would stake my life on that this was a movie script that they decided to adapt into a comic book script. And I see that happening more and more. I just read finished a story called Year Zero. Reads just like a movie script. So I think even the trades are going to be secondary pretty soon to, hey, we want to get this made into a movie. Here you go. And I have a feeling that Suicide Squad's going in that route because they're getting rid of all the classic characters to put in these new characters that the writers can get their money from. Yeah, it's all about the money, baby. What do you think about this? Have you noticed this? Am I on crazy island? Or?
No, you are spot on, especially in the indies. They definitely are. Netflix pitches and.
Well, this is when I really started noticing. It's like, well, really started noticing it now, but it tinges were a couple of years back when I realized the splash page is like 4 pages in now, where like you've got the first 4 pages, which is basically the James Bond action scene before the bullet, you know, da-da-da-da, here's our script. And that's the way I noticed Marvel Comics did it. And then, okay, now DC Comics is doing it. We'll start off with a little bit of action scene, and then we're going to wrap up last issue in the first 4 pages. Here's the splash page for this new issue. And yeah, so it looks like a title card in a movie now.
If you want your point to be completely validated, black was just optioned. The Kwanzaa book. Do you remember black?
I'm contemplating suicide.
Guess who's doing it though?
Please say just some guy.
Brian Edward Hill.
Brian Edward Hill.
Which means it probably will bear no resemblance to Kwanzaa's. You know,
you're making me feel okay now.
but the point being, I said, yeah. If that, you know, if Mags can have a show on Sci-Fi, and Kwanzaa can have a property developed for a movie, yeah, anybody, they're all going to be doing that now.
I like Brian Edward Hill. I like his writing. We disagree on politics, of course. I like his writing. And like I said, they could have had a great 3-issue run on the last story of Batman and the Outsiders. I think I'm interested. I'm interested in seeing what he would do with it. I think black is a ridiculous premise because once again, it takes away all agency from black people. But we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, overall, I think that's the thing. It went from writing for comics to writing for trade paperbacks to now writing for the movies. And it's weird that the characters that started all this, the medium that started all of this is getting less and less respect as it goes down the line. Yeah. And that's what we got to deal with. So there we go, gang. That's our take on the whole thing. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe. Hit one of the videos that are popping up around you and make sure you're clicking like on all of that stuff as well. If you don't mind helping out the channel, go on over to Patreon, Ko-Fi, or even members only. Drop $1 in the till. Helps keep the lights on. Helps keep making videos for you. Thank everybody who's already done that, and to everyone, all of the true believers. Thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good night.